So it's preparing the live stream now.
Could you also promote Miles?
Yep, sorry. I'm just,
That's okay.
he's set now.
Okay.
Yep, sorry. Just, looks
That's
like the
okay.
stream is live. He's set now.
Okay. We got a little bit of feedback. I'm not sure where that's coming from. All right. Do we have quorum, Todd Benzies?
One moment. Is Mark Scarpness back on? Or Martin or Denise? And they may be...
Martin said that he would not be able to make the second session.
Okay. So Mark, we are at quorum. We do have at least 8. I'm just not sure if Denise or Mark Scarpness made it back because they may be dialed in and there's no function to take care of them. But at this point, we have Ashley from individual membership, William from individual membership, Todd from IBM, Brian from Groupon, Sarah from Google, Gara from Microsoft, Scott from Joyent, and Miles from the TSC.
All right.
Also on the line, Andy Updegrove, our outside counsel. This is Todd Benzies, and we have Mark Hinkle, Mike Dolan, as well as Zibby Keaton from the Linux Foundation. Anyone I missed in that? All right.
All right.
Denise is dialed in as one of the people who can't speak.
Okay, I'll note that in the minutes. Unfortunately, there's no way, no function for me to unmute that line without her in the web interface.
Yeah, and that's really a function of us having to stream to YouTube effectively. As a just don't have a technical solution that handles that well. All right, so would you like to call the meeting to order?
So this is Todd. Yeah, thank you, Andy. So let's call the meeting to order.
All right. Great. Please take note of the antitrust compliance notice that was furnished as part of the board package. All right. And we have a fairly short agenda today. We'll start with the November board meeting minutes that were part of the board package as Exhibit B. Would anyone like to make a motion to approve those meeting minutes that were approved by Brian?
Yeah, motion to approve.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed?
Me.
Abstaining? All right. Do we have enough to carry that Todd Benzies? I believe we did.
Yeah, yes, we do. That
Okay.
passes.
Then the motion passes. All right. Next item on the agenda, we had discussed individual director and community board interaction over the last few months. As the chair, Todd, would you like to make a statement?
Yeah, I would like to. Normally, we don't discuss what goes on in private session until meeting minutes have been put together and the board creates a formal statement. In this case, we thought it was significant because the board's taking action to establish a new leadership committee. Thank you, Sarah, for naming it. And what the goal of this group is to work very closely with ComCom, the TSC, the membership, the user base, to better support the needs of the project and the community. We will, through this new committee, have direct interaction, have the ability to fund programs, and be able to carry in well thought out, reasoned out proposals to the board for changes that we think will be possible as a result of having the direct interaction. So the committee is forming. We'll start meeting in January to get the process rolling. And to that end, we expect them to take up the topic of governance and our processes and how we go about representing the membership and the user base as well as the entire community. So we've also made a decision at this point to suspend elections of the open individual director seat that will be coming up, and for a 6-month period. And we'll come out with a formal statement on how this is going to work and how we expect things to operate. So thank you, board, for taking on the topic and coming up with some creative ways to better support the community.
So Denise is trying to raise her hand to say something, and I don't know if you can see a way to allow her to speak or not. Todd Benzies.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's limited with the platform that we have, that folks not using the web.
Okay,
I think that we voted that just Todd speaking on this was plenty. I feel like we should probably move on to the next point.
Yeah,
we don't know what there we can promote Denise the panelist. I don't know what she was. She might be just telling us that she's here.
Okay. Yeah. So as we said, we had the discussion. We've moved forward, and we'll come out with more details as we go and put together the minutes and get a formal statement out. But again, thank you all for participating in a lively discussion.
Thanks, Todd. And Denise, I just promoted you to a panelist. Can we test to make sure you're there? I just unmuted you as well, just to make sure you can participate.
Hi.
Thank you for joining. Sorry about the technical hurdles.
It's okay.
All right, great. All right, the next thing on the agenda was a charter update, and Miles had requested we added this to the agenda. So could you speak to this, Miles, please?
Absolutely, thank you. So right now we have a proposed charter change. It's been signed off and approved by 8 members of the TSC with no objections. There's 2 pieces of language in the charter that are no longer accurate. They're vestiges from the original charter. One was specifying core projects in the charter. It originally stated that core projects would be able to elect people to serve on the TSC, but core projects are not defined anywhere in the charter. So the first commit is to remove the references to core projects. And then the other is removing references to maintainer, which was associated with the roles that would be elected by core projects. So the short of this is essentially it's a small change to the language in the charter to better reflect the way the project is actually running, and will not change any of our day-to-day activities.
Hey, Miles, just looking at this, I'm certain y'all discussed this. I'm just curious, and others listening might be, how does this affect like Express and libuv, some of the things that are kind of off in their own world, but attached?
As far as I know, it will not affect them at all. I think this language was originally in place when we thought we would be bringing another project that would then have representation on the TSC. But since that's not something that we've moved forward with nor have any intention of, the language is mostly to reflect the way in which the TSC is currently working.
Excellent.
All right. So are there any questions about these changes for Miles? If you noted, I retrieved the document as of 12:15 and put it as an exhibit. in the future, Miles, we may want to lock those issues once we put them up for vote, so there no one changes after we've put them on the agenda. I just didn't know a great way to do it other than retrieve it as a moment in time, since GitHub is living.
Yeah, I don't know if there's a way to lock the branch, but let's take that offline and figure out a way to proceed with this.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify that what we are approving is listed in the exhibit.
Yeah, normally with the minutes, we should file a copy of what you have pulled down.
All right. Are there any, would anyone like to make a motion?
I would like to make a motion for the board to approve these changes to the Technical Steering Committee charter.
I would like to second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? Okay. Looks like the motion carries. Thank you very much. And then there is the second request from Miles. Can you speak to this one, Miles?
Yeah, so currently we have the copyright date is out of date. This is an issue that was originally filed by William, so he can speak to it as well. But we would like to get approval to update the copyright date inside of our source code. Andy can maybe speak to whether or not this needs to go through a legal approval before we do it. But we want to just update the copyright date to the current year.
All right. And I think what's never been quite clear is whether that's the best practice or not. Is that?
Yeah, so I think it's a combination of we would like to get a heads up as to what the best practice is, what the legal advice is, and to be able to come up with a proposal that can be approved.
Okay. Not that we need to solve that in this call, Andy, but are you capable of providing that? Is that within the scope of your expertise? Andy?
So there had been some discussion on this in the past, and the team wasn't able to come to consensus over what to do here, and subsequent meetings got tabled as other topics came up that forced things to meet. We can take another run at that. I think it still is going to need the legal committee to go through it, Miles. And there's differing opinions on what to do here, wildly different opinions among the legal team.
Okay, so what I would then request would be to just be looped into that conversation. The primary thing coming from the technical side was just an update on what's going on.
Yeah.
So
let's do that, because James was working that with us, and then with James leaving, it got dropped on the floor. So I think that's appropriate.
I want to add with like a tiny bit of extra context. I remember some TSC meetings discussing this, and this issue is very, very old. So yeah, lots of back and forth. And this is an example of the technical side really showing like we want to do the right thing, and we need like a roadmap of what the right thing is. And so I remember there was a conclusion of they really wanted some kind of something in writing of you update the date when this, or we do not update dates, or dates must always be, but like one final thing that they could reference, because they're not legal people and they don't want to be, they just want to do their part to make it right.
Yeah, and the discussion that we had in the legal committee was essentially that you can put them in to initialize, but the way the process has changed in copyright, the length of time that's established now for the copyright is so long that none of our code will be worth anything by the time the copyright expires. So it's more of a housekeeping thing than it is anything else, and that Some people would like to have dates on there to establish when it at least started. Some people want to have a reference point. Others don't believe that you even need to do it any longer. And that's where the debate came about, and hence where we got stuck. But the group should at least feel comfortable that no matter what they're doing, because of the way copyright changed and its handling and time frame, that we're not really in trouble with that. So give us a little time. Maybe we can come up with this agreement and bring it back to the board for a vote. And
so the legal committee can take that, or can make sure that happens, or yeah. Let's call Todd. Todd can get us together as a legal committee. The hard part is getting multiple company lawyers all together. Yeah. All right. Yeah. Can you make sure that gets passed to Annie, Todd, Benzies? Will do. Okay. Yeah. But at least rest assured that what you're doing isn't a problem right now. Okay. It's not an issue. All right. Thanks. All right. So that's the follow-up with the legal committee. I'll get work with you on that, Miles. All right. Next on the agenda is a request made by William for a charter update, and that was included as part of Exhibit D. Could you speak to that, William, please?
Yeah, so it's actually kind of a boring thing. It has to do with legal, like writing in documents, and it's using RFC 2119, which is pretty common in legal kind of documents that just it refers to that RFC for the definitions of must, must not, required, shall not, should not, recommended, may, and optional. So yeah, a whole RFC was created just to solidify what those kind of flaky words mean. And we definitely have them in our community committee charter. So I just added that in there to reference it for clarity.
All right. And so there were two updates. One was a reference, and then the other one was the actual link to the RFC, I believe. Yeah.
Correct.
All right. Would anyone like to make a motion on that request?
I will motion to pass this.
I'll second it.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
Aye.
All right. All right. Looks and opposed. Abstaining. All right. Looks like that motion carries. All right. That is all we had on the agenda for today. Are there any questions?
So we do have two from the live chat. So the first one is what happens to the vote of the vacant individual seat during the 6-month delay?
We will not be voting. We're going to count on the new process that gets put in place through ComCom and the committee working together.
Under the bylaw, this is Andy Updegrove. The currently serving director would continue to serve until the election occurs.
Yeah, that's my understanding as well.
Yes.
Okay. And then the second question is how were quote, decisions and initiatives, end quote, defined in the private session?
What was the first thing you said, Todd?
How were the quote unquote decisions and initiatives defined in the private session?
Yeah, I think Todd maybe had used that phrase, decisions and initiatives, and I'm not recalling specifically what that was.
No, I was just making reference to the fact that there would be coming forth from the committee and that they would be working to promote that. there was not a list of decisions or initiatives for you, other than we would like the committee to take up governance initially.
All right. Any other questions from the Q&A, Todd Benzies?
That's all I'm seeing.
Okay. Any other discussion necessary in this meeting? Anyone? All right. I guess then, Mr. Chair, if you would like to adjourn the meeting.
Sounds like Todd might be on mute.
It looks like he might have.
I put it on mute when Andy was feeding back there. Thank you all for, since it doesn't appear that there are any other questions coming in. I'd just like to say thank you all for coming and attending, and meeting adjourned.
Thank you.